September 15th, 2008. A day that would be etched into the history of global finance forever. A 158-year-old titan collapsed in a single night, leaving thousands of professionals with nothing but a cardboard box. Panic surged through the veins of Wall Street as the realization set in. The unthinkable had happened. This was the epicenter of a financial tsunami, one that would soon swallow the life savings of millions worldwide. It was the first domino to fall, but to understand why, we must look at the foundation that was already rotting. Welcome to the Wealth Archive. Today, we decode the collapse of Lehman Brothers and the fraud behind the subprime crisis. For decades, the real estate market was the pillar of the American dream. Owning a home was the ultimate symbol of success. In the early 2000s, banks started making a tempting offer. Anyone could buy a home, regardless of their financial status. This was the birth of the subprime mortgage, loans designed for borrowers who traditionally couldn't afford them. Ninja loans became common. No income, no job, and no assets. If you had a pulse, you got a mortgage. As demand soared, the real estate market overheated. Prices went up every day, creating an illusion of infinite wealth. People felt rich. They used their homes like ATM machines, taking out more loans against their rising home equity. But for the banks, these individual mortgage contracts weren't the end goal. They were just raw materials. To make more money, Wall Street needed to move these loans off their books and turn them into something bigger. The foundation was built on sand. Borrowers with poor credit were the bedrock of this new financial structure. Many of these loans had teaser rates, low at first, but destined to skyrocket after a few years. Most homeowners didn't realize that their American dream was actually a ticking time bomb. While families slept, the financial alchemists were busy at work, preparing to turn these risky bets into gold. This was the era of financial engineering. Wall Street invented a way to package toxic loans into safe investments. They created mortgage-backed securities and collateralized debt obligations. High finance at its most complex. The logic was simple. If you bundle enough bad loans together, the diversification somehow makes them safe. But they needed one more thing for global investors to buy in: the approval of the credit rating agencies. Agencies like Moody's and S&P were paid by the banks. They looked the other way and gave these toxic assets an AAA rating. AAA meant as safe as government bonds. It was a stamp of approval that hid the underlying rot. With these ratings, pension funds and global investors rushed to buy. The toxic risk was exported to the entire world. Everyone was making record profits. The bonuses were huge, and the party seemed like it would never end. But the height of this tower of debt was unsustainable. It relied on one single assumption: that house prices would never fall. Wall Street had successfully packaged poison as a luxury product, and the world swallowed it whole. The complexity of these products made it impossible for even the smartest investors to see the reality. At the top of this mountain of toxic assets sat Lehman Brothers. and the sun was about to set on their 158-year legacy. By 2006, the party was ending. The Federal Reserve began raising interest rates, making those cheap mortgages much more expensive. Monthly payments doubled, then tripled. Suddenly, the subprime borrowers, who were the bedrock of the system, couldn't pay anymore. While the world cheered, a few outsiders saw the truth. They looked at the data and saw a real estate market held together by lies. They decided to bet against the American dream. Bankers laughed, thinking these shorts were throwing their money away. Then the first domino tipped. Defaults began to surge. The credit rating agencies tried to hide the rot, but it was too late. The bubble had reached its limit. The value of those AAA gold bars began to plummet as the underlying homes went into foreclosure. Supply overwhelmed demand. Home prices, which everyone thought would only go up, started their long, painful descent. The financial alchemy was failing. The gold was turning back into the toxic waste it always was. The banks were trapped. Fear replaced greed. No one wanted to buy the debt anymore. The market froze, and the biggest players began to bleed. The stage was set for the ultimate collapse. The world was seconds away from the most infamous moment in financial history. September 2004. The US government made a shocking decision. They would not bail out Lehman Brothers. At 1:45 a.m., the Titan officially fell. Lehman Brothers filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, the largest in history. Panic hit the real estate market and global stock exchanges instantly. The trust that holds the financial world together vanished. The domino effect was unstoppable. From London to Tokyo, banks stopped lending to each other, fearing who would be next. Trillions of dollars in wealth evaporated in a matter of days. The perfect investment had become a black hole. While the system crumbled, many who created the mess remained untouched, protected by their golden parachutes. A few saw it coming. The big short investors made billions by betting against the housing bubble. But for the average family, there was no profit, only pain. The mortgage they were promised would bring stability became a nightmare. Millions lost their homes. Middle-class neighborhoods turned into ghost towns as families were forced onto the streets. Retirement funds were wiped out. Years of hard work and savings vanished because of a fraudulent credit rating. Unemployment skyrocketed. The global economy entered the Great Recession, the worst downturn since the 1930s. The human cost was immeasurable. It wasn't just numbers on a screen. It was the destruction of the American dream. Governments eventually stepped in with taxpayer money to save the too-big-to-fail banks. The banks were saved, but the scars on society would remain for a generation. New laws were passed to prevent this from happening again. But has the financial world truly learned its lesson? Today, the real estate market is booming again, but the patterns of greed and complexity often hide in plain sight. The tools change, but the psychology of the bubble remains the same. History doesn't repeat, but it often rhymes. That's why we created the Wealth Archive, to shed light on the mechanics of money and protect your financial future. Understanding the past is your best defense against the crises of the future. don't be the next victim of a falling domino. If you found this archive valuable, subscribe and join our community of informed investors. What do you think? Where is the next bubble hiding? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And this was the Wealth Archive. Stay vigilant, and we'll see you in the next file.